Okay, so I'd like to address a talking point that's constantly being thrown out by gun control advocates. Gun rights advocates, I'm sure you've heard this at least once if you've argued in favor of the Second Amendment against gun control. It's this or some variation of this. We're not going after your guns. We're only trying to make it harder for bad guys to get guns. You see, bad guys shouldn't get guns, and we're only trying to make it harder for them to get guns. Our proposals and our laws aren't going to affect you in the slightest, or they will hardly affect you at all. They're just going to be a minor inconvenience. Except for the fact that's not true. Now, while I want to get to addressing that talking point, there's something I need to point out before I get there. The talking heads of the gun control movement, aka the intelligent ones, know this is untrue. However, they are willing to lie, cheat, and steal even to get their way. They don't care. They're willing to exploit dead children. That was evidence with Barack Obama's shameful day speech when the Manchin-Toomey bill failed. A bill that even his administration admitted would not have prevented Sandy Hook. And yet, when Congress didn't pass that bill in the name of Sandy Hook, he called it a, quote, shameful day. So yes, he did exploit those kids just the same as every gun control advocate talking head does. Every time there's a massacre, gun control talking heads are coming out to exploit those children. That should give you the level of morality you're working with. That's first and foremost. Now, do I think most people in favor of gun control are like that? When you're talking about the masses, a lot of them are just ignorant of the law, which, I mean, doesn't make it much better. I think if you're going to advocate for something, you need to at least know what you're advocating for, i.e., knowing what the current laws are, knowing what you're proposing, and knowing its effects. But a lot of people don't do that anymore. The idea of research or having a well-informed opinion, I guess, is apparently a thing of the past. I guess it's just as outdated as our Constitution. All right. So, to address this talking point, well, it's blatantly false. It already affects law-abiding gun owners. You see, law-abiding gun owners, especially if you're a gun enthusiast like me, it's quite beneficial and usually somewhat necessary to know what the firearm laws are. You see, because firearms, yes, you can get in a lot of trouble for them. You know, not even committing a violent crime or anything like that. It could be just a simple technical error. Well, what do I mean by that? Let's take this here pistol. Now, I know this doesn't look like the traditional pistol. It's a pistol based off a rifle, as they call it. Right now, I'd really love to put a stock on that. You know, I'd love to do it in the legal way. You know, so obviously I'm waiting until I'm ready to do it in the legal way. But I'd really like to put a stock on that. If I just were to go slap a stock on this right now, that would be illegal. That would make this into an SBR, or short-barreled rifle. That would mean 5 years in prison. And it would also mean that I would be legally obligated to turn over all my firearms. Gee, the gun laws don't affect me hardly. Hmm. Oh, by the way, for the NFA Title II process for SBRs, you got to pay a $200 tax stamp. You got to be in a state where they're legal. You've got to be in a county where the county sheriff will sign off on it. You got to get your fingerprints done. You got to get an in-depth background check. Which a lot of us already do. If you're a concealed carry holder, your background's constantly being run. I can't tell you how many 4473 forms I filled out. And even before I got my concealed carry license, how many background checks I went through. I've been a firearm owner for well over a decade now. But gee, and even once I do complete the NFA Title II process, after filling out that, getting it registered, providing the tax stamp, I got to wait anywhere from 6 to 12 months to get the approval from the BATF, at least on the first one, And even then, at that point, I can't loan it to my buddies anymore. I can't loan it to my mother if I'm going out of state and I want to make sure it's in a home where people actually can be there. Well, sorry, that's pretty much illegal unless, I have an NFA trust with them on it and it's locked in a safe where maybe only one or two, the only people who have access to it are the people who have the NFA trust. If not, 5 years in prison. Hell, let's say I decide I don't want to put a stock on it and I want to put a foregrip on it. Again, violation of NFA Title II laws. And 5 years in prison. Again, the same thing, become a convicted felon. Unless I go through the proper NFA Title II process. Gee, laws still don't hardly affect me. Well, shoot. Let's say I wanted to own a machine gun. Now, this is obviously manufactured after 1986. Let's say I wanted to take it to a dealer and have it converted to full auto. Well, I can't do that. It would be manufactured after 1986. Again, and personally, I would love to own an M4 with selective fire capabilities like I owned, well, not owned, was issued in the service. But unfortunately, the M4s are manufactured after 1986. Ergo, illegal for private use. Gee, still don't think that these gun laws really affect law-abiding citizens too much. Well, let's say this one I decide to keep is just a pistol based off a rifle. I want to go on a little trip to California. I don't know, to see some friends or maybe some relatives or something. And I happen to have this in my trunk. What do you think's going to happen when the state trooper pulls me over? Gee, that's going to be a felony. There's no way I can legally take this with me to California. And that goes the same for a lot of my other guns. Can I carry legally in California? Well, no, I don't have a California CHL. And they won't recognize my Texas CHL. What about if, say, I got a really good job in New York and the economy in Texas went to shit? Let's just say that just happened. And, and the New York economy just went, boom, skyrocketed. And that's the only place you can find a decent job now. Well, gee, most of my firearms I wouldn't even be able to legally take with me. I would have to maintain a residence in Texas just to keep them, or maintain a residence in Pennsylvania probably. I mean, maybe their gun laws are, well, not as good as Texas. Better than New York's. I would have to keep them out in New York. And even the ones I could legally own in New York, I'd have to get a license, which takes about a year to get, and the process of moving your already lawfully owned firearms with you into New York State is so painstaking. Most FFLs, in fact, there are only a few FFLs that will actually do the transfer for you. That'll actually help you out with that. Gee, yeah, sure, these laws hardly affect us at all. There's a lady from Pennsylvania with her concealed carry permit. Took a shortcut through New Jersey, got pulled over by the state trooper. And guess what? She didn't know she was breaking the law in New Jersey by, taking that shortcut through New Jersey while carrying, but she went to jail for that anyway. She was charged. And this is an honest, hard-working person who did everything in their power to follow the laws. Had another guy in D.C. get arrested for spent shell casings he had in his truck or his car. That hardly affects law-abiding citizens. Well, I'll tell you what. If those are your ideas of hardly affecting law-abiding citizens, you can cram those ideas up your ass, because I still don't like them. I'm not sold on it. None of us Second Amendment advocates are sold on it. A lot of us firearms enthusiasts, well, I don't know any firearms enthusiasts who are sold on those ideas. I know a few buds who might be, but not real firearms enthusiasts. But yeah, I don't know anybody in their right mind as a firearms enthusiast who thinks too highly of those laws. So yes, you're going to continually get that resistance. Right. Now, I'm going to show this again, and I want you to notice what's underlined in green and what's underlined in light blue. First, read what's underlined in light green. Okay. And then read what's underlined in blue. This should give you an idea on where we're getting the idea that when you guys say regulate, you mean ban. This comes, by the way, not from some right-wing extremist news site. This doesn't come from Alex Jones. This comes from Dianne Feinstein's own webpage. Got it? You notice how in the intro she said, we need to regulate, and then when you go down to what the bill actually does, you see that word ban right there. So it's not too hard to figure out what they really mean. And when you've got people such as Hillary Clinton, coming out and saying we need Australian-style gun laws, which are pretty much, in Australia, for the most part, guns might as well be banned, or at least most of them might as well be banned. And To get a gun legally in Australia, you're getting a headache. Hell, you have to have a license to own a paintball marker and have a genuine reason to get that license to own a paintball marker in Australia. Why would we subject ourselves to that? So, there you have it. Gun control advocates, just know that whenever you sit there and use a variation of "we're not coming for your guns, we're just simply trying to regulate, not ban guns," and just to keep them out of the hands of criminals. What we're proposing won't affect law-abiding citizens at all. I've just shown you every reason why we should be distrustful of you. And hell, stuff I pointed out here, I can point out stuff like that all day. You want to talk about what I pulled off Dianne Feinstein's own website, I can find tons of those things. I'll give you another example. When DC versus Heller was going on, and it was being argued that the outright ban on handguns in DC was a violation of the Second Amendment. You know who came out to support that? The Brady campaign, among other groups. Yet they're not trying to, quote, ban guns. They're just trying to regulate guns. And here they are supporting an outright ban. Come on. You can't. What is it? That you're so stupid that you can't see it? Or is it you think we're just that fucking stupid that we can't figure it out? Either way, you're a moron. You're either a moron for underestimating us or a moron for believing them. All right, y'all take her easy now. If it's not clear enough, it will never be clear enough for you.